Well, hopefully this is a welcome back because this is the third knife that I'm doing the review of as far as my ADCs that actually get used. So let's take a look at what we got here. Before I talked about, listen to that. I talked about a ProTech knife right here, that half-breed, fantastic knife. I talked about my Cricut Jettison. Again, probably my favorite, least expensive knife that I actually carry as often as I can. But let's move on to something a little different. Now this is an older knife that they still produce, and it's an oldie but a goodie. I've used it a lot, and I've used it for some strange things. So bear with me and I will explain my BlackHawk knives, Be-Wharned. And I like how they do the Be-Wharned because they're talking about the Wharncliffe style design. Now I've got some cool things to tell you about this knife, but hold on one second. Let me get these out of the way. Doing my Saturday thing. Hanging out at the house, chilling, talking about knives. Now, this knife right here in particular, this is a fine knife, and there's some really good things about it, but then there's some things that I scratched my head about, so bear with me. So let's get to it. The Be-Wharned is a Wharncliffe style knife. It's a $75, $80 knife. When I bought it, it used to be $100 because it was a new knife, and get this, it had that somewhat exotic AUS 8A steel. Ooh, but you know, now AUS 8 is just, it is what it is. Back then it was something cool, something different. A lot of knives that we were coming across back then were 440, 420, things of that nature. Years ago when I got this one, AUS 8 was something cool to get. Now, kind of run-of-the-mill, inexpensive, but a really good steal for the money. You do have the inexpensive AUS 6, and so AUS 8 is still higher end of that production run. Now, that is a 3.4-inch Wharncliffe design, hence the Be-Wharned. Again, the blade is made of AUS 8, and it's a pretty steel. I'm always impressed by AUS 8 because of the satin look that you can get with that steel. It always looks good. It has that machined, grainy look that's very nice. These knives that I've been reviewing, they do have fingerprints on them and pocket lint and wear on them because these get used. Some of them will leave a little grease on my fingers from flipping them, and I do need to go back and clean these, but again, these are tools that I tend to carry. Now, this is a grippy G10 scale on this knife. Now, back when I got this, G10 was again a super cool thing, but this G10 has held the test of time. It has not worn down, it hasn't chipped, it hasn't shown any aging. I can say that it will eat the mess out of your pockets if they're starting to fray, because as grippy as it is, when you pull this sucker out of the pocket, it'll chew it up. And if you look, the strange thing about this knife, but I do understand the design, is this pocket clip. It's only a tip down. Why is this knife only a tip down? Because tip up on a Wharncliffe design like this, that is what you could reach into your pocket and get. I'm a huge fan of tip up knives, but you see how skinny the butt of this knife becomes, and if you get just a little bit of play in that knife, that is nothing nice to reach in and get. So with a tip down design, you never worry about that. You can see that, odd enough, this is in a left hand draw, because most people on a right hand draw, the blade would actually butt up against the back of their pocket. So I haven't changed it, I didn't mess with it. I don't really plan on it. I've had this knife long enough that it just is what it is. Now let's take a look at a couple other design features that I can really appreciate. You have the stainless steel standoffs, which was a cool thing years and years ago. You have the jimping that is built into the G10, and I tell you what, look at this. That is grippy. I mean, that is super, super grippy. I mean, that's really nice G10 scales on there. So if you're holding the knife and you want to have good pressure, the design of this knife is not a traditional EDC and using it to slice and cut things. It will, believe me. This is a self-defense weapon that is meant for cutting and or stabbing. And the design of this knife is a plunge style knife. Can you carry it off grip? Well, look at that. You get enough pressure up here that you can hold your hand off the blade. You do have a slight choil right there, and when you choke up on this and pull down, you don't have the feeling of this getting out of hand. So I do like and appreciate this. I would have liked to see maybe a little jimping right here, but I get why they didn't, because they didn't want to make hot spots for the pinky. So, this knife right here, self-defense weapon. It shows a little bit of wear, but not a lot. I mean, the clip has shown some wear. The screws, as far as the coloration on them, like these have become matte, and you can see inside the handle, these are shiny. Little nitpicky things, but I'm going to tell you, this knife is years old. It does come with phosphorus bronze washers, which is nice. It comes with really nice thumb studs that are designed to be ambidextrous in case you flip the clip. But I'll show you there. Look at that. These thumb studs and the smoothness of this knife. It requires very little oil. Those phosphorus bronze washers, they just eat up that oil and go. So, what's the coolest thing about this knife to me, besides the design of the overall knife and the blade, has to be the liner lock. The liner lock on this thing is a beast. Now, I measured it. It is almost a ½ inch in thickness from the exterior right here to the top where it locks on the blade. That is a substantial lockup. And if you look, this is what the old school design, they called it a hidden liner lock, because the liner lock, there isn't a huge cutout right here for you to access the liner lock. It is poking out a little bit, but you really have to get your thumb in there. Now, that's one of the things I'll caution you. When you're getting this knife and you're flipping it, be careful, because if you put that there and you flip too quickly, yeah, that's your thumb's going to catch right there on the bottom of the blade, but it is rounded, so it can roll a little bit. And that right there, that would not be nice. But super impressed by the lockup on this knife. I mean, that right there, that is a hoss of a liner lock. And the centering on it, that liner lock right there, boy, I can't say enough nice things about that. So this knife overall, yeah, it's shown some wear. I mean, it's a $75 knife now. It is. I could always replace the pocket clip. Not going to, because it's an EDC that's meant to be worked with. Now, what's some of the weird things I've done with this? I've found that this Wharncliffe design blade has become a box cutter. Yes, there are foam things that I've cut and shaved with and poked through that this knife has been really good with. Now, would I cut sheetrock with it? No, but you could. I mean, that blade right there, my wife calls it your box cutter knife, because look at that. It looks like a box cutter. Performs like one as well. That tip right there, I would be worried maybe some heavy cutting, because it is thin and it is meant to stab, but it cuts really well. So overall, nice knife for the money. If you're looking something for the upper tier and you're wanting something that's not everyday run-of-the-mill, this is a different knife. BlackHawk knives, you don't see a whole lot of their products out there, but they do make some good middle-of-the-road, I say middle-of-the-road, it's good quality, but mid-tier products. So if you're looking for something different with solid lockup and a good feel in the handle, do yourself a favor. Take a look at BlackHawk knives and you be the judge. I've enjoyed mine. I've had a good time with it. So happy hunting, and I hope you find something a little bit out of the ordinary. Thank you, and look forward to my next EDC review. Have a good weekend.